minutes now before the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us. I'll show you where you might see some strong storms on Saturday coming up in a minute. But first, a look at Hurricane George. We'll show you the latest coordinates. It's at 14.1 north. That's 50.7 west. And this is as of the 2 o'clock advisory. It's at about 690 miles to the east of the Lesser Antilles. Still has winds to 105 miles per hour, and it's moving west at 18. Estimated pressure, 28.64 inches, 970 millibars. You can see the track that George has been taking over the last several days, and it doesn't look like this track is going to change. The concern is if it stays on this track, it will affect the Lesser Antilles. We think that it will probably do that on Saturday night or early Sunday morning. We'll show you the latest satellite picture in a minute, but first, to let you know that hurricane watches have been posted from Anguilla all the way down to St. Lucia. What islands does that include? Well, we'll take a look. From St. Martin to Barbuda, all the way through Antigua, Dominica, and even Martinique, and of course St. Lucia as well. Here's the latest satellite picture. Now this is a couple of hours old. We expect to get new pictures soon. However, the storm is still very well defined. Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale continues to track off to the west, and it is getting closer to the islands. This is where we think it will impact in the next the next day or so. We're talking again a possible landfall in the islands by Saturday night or early Sunday morning. A very well-defined hurricane with very good outflow at all levels, and it's certainly a concern. Something we're watching very, very closely. We think it will probably move into the Caribbean, and then it's a hard call. We can't go much farther than that, but it does look like it's going to pass across the Northern Antilles, the Lesser Antilles, and then into the Caribbean. Otherwise, in the Caribbean right now, things are very quiet. We do have one blow-up of storms here. The one we're watching is right here. This is Tropical Depression number 8. It's located at 25.5 north, 92.1 west. That's about 335 miles south-southeast of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Right now it has winds to 35 miles per hour, and it's still nearly stationary. Estimated pressure at 29.59 inches, rather 5-6 inches, and that's 101 millibars. So the pressure is still pretty high with this. It's a fairly unorganized system. There are tropical storm watches that have been posted from Pascagoula, Mississippi to High Island, Texas. But we're not expecting high winds with this storm. We do think that there is a possibility for some flooding as it moves on shore. But it's still a hard call because the shearing is taking place, the higher tops are being blown off the center of circulation, and it is very unorganized. It is forecast to become a tropical storm. However, at this point, it is not looking very organized at all. We're watching it very closely, though, for you folks along the Gulf Coast region. Closer look, we head off the coast of Africa. We do have one wave that we're watching right here. There is a chance this one could become a depression in the next couple of days, so that's something to watch. Otherwise, in the Pacific, things are very quiet, and this is typically the time of year when things start to quiet down and we don't see as much tropical activity. We had quite a powerful typhoon. It was Todd. It's moving out of the picture right here. Moves out of the picture. I'll show you one more time. That's Todd. It was a very strong typhoon. It has now been downgraded considerably. It was moving north. We were afraid that it might hit Japan, but it is now tracking off the west, and it's no longer a threat. We check back on the lower 48, and high pressure will continue to dominate the weather over New England as we head on into the morning hours. We're also going to watch the potential for flooding in parts of the south central U.S. And again, we're talking the parishes of Louisiana. We think there's a pretty good chance for some flooding. The main reason is Francis moved in here recently. They had a lot of tropical moisture, tons of rain. Many of the parishes here were inundated with all kinds of precipitation. So any more rain that falls could cause some problems. We're watching it closely also for you folks in southern Mississippi and even Alabama. So this whole area is certainly an area of concern. But as I mentioned before, with Tropical Depression number 8, it is not organized right now. It is not a threat. You need to watch it along the Gulf Coast region, but it is not developing rapidly, and it's not moving at all. It's stationary. Well, stay tuned, because coming up in the next couple of minutes or so, we'll have a look at your local hometown outlook, and then more. 51.3
degrees west. We're still some 650 miles to the east of the Lesser Antilles. Top sustained winds 105 miles per hour, expected to strengthen within the next 48 to 72 hours as it approaches the islands. Probably somewhere in the central and northern islands, could be looking at winds getting close to 130, maybe up to 140 miles per hour. That would make it a Category 4 hurricane if that does indeed happen. The pressure right now is still falling at 970 millibars. Let's take a look at what's happening as far as the latest advisories. We have hurricane watches right now from St. Lucia on northward, and once again these may be upgraded to hurricane warnings a little bit later on today. Let's show you what's happening right now. We can show you the hurricane as it begins to work its way on towards the west. You can see the eye itself looking a little bit more ragged this morning, but again, we're still looking at the eye in the middle of the central dense overcast, which means we have a healthy hurricane, and no reason with the great outflow which it has all around it at the present time, no reason for it not to strengthen as you look at the next 12 to 24 hours and even beyond that. Of course, sometime by late tomorrow into early Monday, we could be looking at maybe a Category 4 hurricane. I'd definitely be looking at winds strengthening up to about 130, maybe up to 140 miles per hour as our hurricane continues to advance towards the islands, the Lesser Antilles. And once again, we can talk about what's happening here. And once again, we can talk about basically now from St. Lucia on northward. We do have some hurricane watches in effect. Could become warnings, though, a little bit later on. Here's another perspective of our hurricane churning its way on towards the west. And to the west of there, again, we've seen some convection during the last 24 hours. Another healthy wave or two emerging off the African coastline. But overall, not too much to worry about here. Our main concern is going to be developing, of course, with the Hurricane George as it works its way on towards the west, towards the islands during the next couple of days. Let's take a look at the Gulf of Mexico, the other hot spot, where once again we've been tracking a tropical depression during the last couple of days. And it was located basically just about in this vicinity right over the Central Gulf or West Central Gulf. But we think now, and according to the aircraft reconnaissance which has gone out there, that the center may have reformed up to the north and just to the west of that deep red convection. So again, the latest advisory has the center of circulation 25.7 degrees north, 91.6 degrees west, or still some 335 miles to the south-southeast of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Top sustained winds, 35 miles per hour. We need to get those sustained winds up to 39 for it to become a minimal tropical storm. That has not happened yet. And once again, the movement nearly stationary, not moving at all. And the pressure holding steady, rather low at 1,001 millibars. And we could be looking at some deepening here. A close-in shot. Again, the center of circulation now is a little bit more farther northbound, just to the west of this deep convection, which is developing right here. So again, if we see some of this convection wrapping around that center of circulation, we could be looking at a deepening system and perhaps tropical storm status coming into the picture here, come later on today or tonight. But if it's tropical depression or a tropical storm, a minimal one at that, it could bring a lot of rainfall for sure to parts of the southeast during the next 24 to 48 hours. Right now we do have tropical storm watches still in effect, with the anticipation that this will still become a tropical storm, even a minimal one at that. From High Island in Texas over towards Pascagoula, Mississippi. And again, we can also talk about the fact that we could be looking at some very heavy rainfall moving here as well. Over the East Pac right now, not too much is going on. Our main concern at the present time is going to be with our hurricane and our depression over the Gulf.
Tropical weather systems are affected by so many variables.
We constantly monitor the situation.
If someone is safer by watching the Weather Channel, that's what it's all about.
Make your dreams a reality. Reach out for positive energy. You feel the power when you take control. If you want it all you've got to do is pick it up. Get it on with the psychic solution.
Hi, I'm Tammy, and as you can see, my life is great now. But when my friends ask, I admit that I didn't do it alone. I tried for years and never could find the answers by myself. But now I do have it all. And it all started with that first free psychic reading. I'm proof that one free call can really change your life. Believe me, good luck is waiting for you, and so is love. But you gotta reach out and take it. Hey, what if I had never tried that first free reading? Without my psychic, this would all still be a dream. So don't just dream of a better life, do something about it. Call right now.
Don't wait any longer to change your life. Call now for your free psychic reading.
Call 1-800-799-4623.
Base Camp to Forester, report.
Me? I'm doing great. This Subaru Forester is a blast to drive. It's got a lot more horsepower than a CRV. This all-wheel drive goes to anything. Handles easy.
52.0 west. 600 miles east of the Lesser Antilles, winds 115 miles per hour. That makes it a Category 3 hurricane. It's going to pack a wallop. It's moving west 18 miles per hour, 960 millibars. That has strengthened about 10 millibars since the 5 o'clock advisory. It's headed right toward the Lesser Antilles. Track takes it towards central or northern areas of the Lesser Antilles. We have tropical storm watches that are in effect from St. Lucia northward to Anguilla. Now the Virgin Islands are out in this area. Of course, this is Puerto Rico, and the forecast track is in this general direction. But when you get out this far, you have an almost a 300 nautical mile variance in direction where this hurricane could make its move. So you want to monitor the situation very closely over the next 24 to 36 hours. It would place it over the Lesser Antilles sometime tomorrow afternoon or evening, and folks in the Lesser Antilles ought to be monitoring the situation very, very closely. It's a beautiful day out here today, but this is what's headed our direction. Tightly wound, hurricane force winds extend out 35 nautical miles, 200 nautical miles for tropical storm force winds. Give you a little idea of the Lesser Antilles. St. Martin's, one of the northern islands, Barbuda, Antigua, southward to St. Lucia, the southern extent of where the tropical storm watches are currently in effect. And these, of course, are the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas being here, St. Croix being the southernmost island. So monitor the situation with us as it spins eastward. We'll keep you updated every half hour with full briefings, and full briefings also 10 minutes before the top of every hour. Another wave moving off the African coast could mean problems later on, but not imminent. Some showers and thunderstorms out off the Yucatan Peninsula, but this is Tropical Depression number 8, and Tropical Depression number 8 has reformed further north, almost 100 miles further north. It is now centered 190 miles south-southwest of New Orleans, 27.4 north, 91.4 west, 35 mile per hour winds. Drifting north, 1,001 millibars is its pressure. That has not changed much. What is changing, though, is it looks as though the convection is trying to build back toward the center of circulation, which is out here to the west of the convection. So if that were to happen, this could intensify very quickly into a tropical storm and then a hurricane. It is forecast to become a tropical storm before the end of the day today. Tropical storm watches are in effect from Pascagoula, Mississippi to High Island, Texas. As we head out further to the west into the Pacific, there's nothing going on much in the eastern Pacific off the coast of Mexico, but there is some tropical action out in the western Pacific where we've had two typhoons. We have Typhoon Todd, which was a major typhoon, weakened to a tropical storm and went back to a typhoon. And then we have Tropical Storm Vicky that affected northern Luzon, and then Tropical Depression 12, which is out toward Vietnam. So we have 3 tropical disturbances out in this region. Here's where you can expect severe weather today: Minnesota, Wisconsin, into eastern Nebraska. We have a big storm system here over the Dakotas that's headed to the east, and that's going to slam into some very moist, unstable air. And we expect thunderstorms that do develop later this afternoon and this evening in this area to turn severe. It doesn't mean there'll be a widespread outbreak, but it does mean that where they occur, they could become severe. We do have lightning strike data in North Dakota and Minnesota. They've been listening to thunder rumbling about this morning in International Falls and Grand Forks. Cells develop now just to the west of Bismarck, North Dakota. Also, heard some thunder this morning around Lexington, Kentucky. This is mostly moderate rain now. It has moved east of Interstate 75. Stay with us. Another full briefing on the tropics coming up in just a few minutes.
Each time a disturbance comes off the coast of Africa, we follow that until it develops into a storm or to whatever it does. That way you're prepared, you're safe, out of harm's way.
This program was sponsored by the Home Depot.
As a customer, you're so important to us that you should have the best price all the time. Why shop somewhere else when you know every day you're going to come in and get that low price?
Home Depot doesn't have sales because we have an everyday low price.
But the competitors have to have the sales because they jack their prices up so high. But we keep our prices low every day.
I know you can feel confident coming into a Home Depot and finding the lowest price day in and day out. I know you can.
Bottom line, if we sell it and you bought it someplace else, you paid too much for it.
You would be out of your mind if you shop someplace else.
The all-new Mitsubishi Galant. Totally new styling, nicely equipped at $17,990.
Sponsored by Mitsubishi. Look for the all-new 1999 Galant. Wake up and drive.
Craftsman has come up with another smart solution that simplifies projects and saves you time. The Craftsman Speedlock Drill and Driver System. This patented Speedlock Quick Connector is the heart of the system. It fits any drill and works with keyed or keyless chucks. The Speedlock's simple click-in, click-out action makes changing bits so easy.
Storm in the Gulf of Mexico that is only 100 and some miles south-southwest of New Orleans. We will detail where the potential is for severe weather later in this segment, so that will cover you as well. Let's begin with the tropical update. We'll start out with a very powerful hurricane. Hurricane George. George was upgraded by about 10 miles per hour with its winds on the latest advisory, and the reconnaissance aircraft is on its way to investigate. Pressure at 948 millibars now, and that's 27.99 inches of mercury, down about 12 millibars since the last advisory at 8 a.m., which was down about 10 millibars from what the advisory was at 5 a.m. So we have a strengthening hurricane out here, very compact storm with some very strong winds, 125 miles per hour sustained, still moving westward at 18 miles per hour, about 540 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. It's at 15.0 north and 52.8 west. That's the center of circulation. And when you see the satellite picture, you'll see that it's a very, very concentric circulation. Meanwhile, we now have hurricane watches that are in effect from the U.S. and British Virgin Islands throughout the Lesser Antilles southward to St. Lucia. This is a hurricane to be reckoned with, the track of which is to the west. Could affect Puerto Rico, could affect the Virgin Islands. That's the reason that the Virgin Islands have been included in the latest advisory, the latest hurricane watch. There's your hurricane. This is the visible satellite imagery. We have a central dense overcast and eye here that's very concentric, and we have convection around that eye that is very concentric as well. The hurricane force winds extend out about 45 nautical miles. Tropical storm force winds out about 200 nautical miles, and probably some squalls and rain showers out in some of these bands preceding this hurricane. And the effects of the hurricane are going to be felt well before landfall of this hurricane at 18 miles per hour, 200 miles. Tropical storm force winds will be in effect at least 5 hours prior to any kind of landfall. We'll keep you advised of this. These are the islands again: St. Thomas, St. Martin, St. John, St. Croix. These are now included in the hurricane watch. This is the infrared satellite picture. Gives you an idea of the thunderstorms and the convection surrounding the eye. Very compact, powerful storm. Another wave merging off the African coast. We may be watching this in a couple of days too. Now, of significance is this: what was Tropical Depression 8 is now Tropical Storm Hermine. 27.9 north and 90.7 west is the center of its circulation. 137 miles southwest of New Orleans, 45-mile-per-hour winds, and it's moving north-northeast at about 9 miles per hour. 1,001 millibars of pressure. That has not changed much, but it looked all morning long like the convection was moving westward toward the center of circulation, which was a little west of where the convection was firing up this morning. Now we have tropical storm warnings in effect eastward to Pensacola, Florida from Morgan City, Louisiana, and then east of there to Destin, we have tropical storm watches. So monitor this situation with us at the Weather Channel. Looks as though we'll see a track somewhere in that direction, and that could mean as early tomorrow morning that this could move on shore. The longer it's out over the water, the greater the chance of further strengthening, so do monitor the situation. Coastal flood watches in effect for southern Mississippi and Louisiana. Further out in the eastern Pacific, no developments here. We've had a couple of typhoons and a tropical depression out in the Westpac, Vicky, Todd, and Tropical Depression 12. They've impacted China and Luzon and Vietnam. Now, your best chance for severe weather today will be in Minnesota and Iowa. We have a vigorous storm system pulling out of the northern plains, and it's going to undercut some very moist, unstable air, and with that, the potential for severe weather is very likely in Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and northwest Iowa. Stay with us here at the Weather Channel. We'll monitor this situation for you as well. Looks like some storms developing out in North Dakota as we speak. Now, full briefing coming up in just a couple of minutes with Dr. Lyons. Stay with us.
Tropical weather systems are affected by so many variables.
We constantly monitor the situation.
If someone is safer by watching the Weather Channel, that's what it's all about.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Deardorff. Where would you go for a home equity loan? Let's ask.
Well, banks have the best rates.
But banks only lend money when you don't need it.
Advanta National Bank is different. They lend money to people when they need it.
Right. With my credit?
They made their first loans 45 years ago to teachers who had trouble borrowing. They helped out when others wouldn't.
This is a bank, right?
With customers who get the flexibility only a national bank can offer, right over the phone.
Got to move all your accounts there.
Nope, just call Advanta. One of their loan specialists will show you how to use the equity in your home to pay off all of your bills. Get one low monthly payment and save hundreds of dollars a month, plus a tax deduction.
You'll wait for some board to approve.
You'll get fast approval over the phone. And your money in about 10 days. You don't need to have money in the bank to get money from a bank. To get the loan you want, call Advanta at 1-800-550-4151. You'll see they're different. Hey, they don't keep bankers' hours either.
Well, I've decided. Tonight's the night I'm going to pop the question.
That's great.